What's up, guys? Devadog Gamer here, and we are testing out the mouse. Now, we actually got to take this out on the dev server and test it against other tier 5 ranked tanks. And I gotta say, I'm actually pretty impressed. If you know your stuff about tanks, you know a lot about the mouse. The mouse is the major German prototype that never really existed, but could have changed the war if it was introduced a lot earlier. Now, this thing is a 188-ton monster. It has a max speed of 13 miles an hour and features a 128mm and a 75mm gun. Now, let's talk a little bit about the ammo for this thing. The armor-piercing capped at 100 meters has 235mm penetration. Now, this is for the 128mm gun. This is the big boy. At 500 meters, it penetrates at 220 millimeters. Now, that's kind of mid-range, not really the greatest, whatever. You know, your armor-piercing cap ballistic, though, at 100 meters can penetrate 250 millimeters of armor, and at 500 can penetrate 235 millimeters of armor. That's going to be your important ammo. You want to go the armor-piercing cap ballistic. 75 millimeter, a lot of heat. It's all heat rounds. The max can penetrate up to 100 millimeters. That's kind of be good for weak points in between of a 128mm reload, or just tanks you don't want to waste a 128mm on. Now, this thing's got armor all over the place. As you can see, it's 100mm, 200mm, effective thickness of 230mm and 250mm. Don't let any of this fool you. Don't let the armor values fool you in this at all. And I'm going to show you exactly why. This is probably the clearest example I was able to record in the few hours I'm doing this in this one round. All I could get into is arcade, but this kind of gives you a clear example of exactly what this tank is capable of. Now, if you look at it, its turret's pretty much all sloped, and then the armor, and that was an IS-2. IS-2 is an easy tank to penetrate, but you got to look at the tank this way. It's a giant armored box. It's very, very slow. It traverses very, very slow. Its turret has a little bit of a slope to it. It can deflect rounds, but the way you got to look at this thing is, this is the clear example of angling your armor. Now, you're going against the IS-4, which is the best tank in the game at the moment. It is by far the clear best tank in this game. If you can angle your armor correctly with this tank, then you are actually going to survive in a lot of engagements. Now, there's one big weak point in this thing, and that is the front turret mantle. Left and right side, right there on the side, penetrate clear as day, easy. That's the easiest way to kill a mouse, is right or left of the turret. Done. Game over. But if you can angle your armor correctly in this tank, you're really going to have an easy time deflecting a lot of these shots and actually surviving. And you'll see I just bounce shots left and right in this tank, from IS-4s, 103s, Tiger 2s, you name it, T-54s, and the way I get killed in this clip is actually a very, very interesting thing, and I actually want to show this off a little bit. Now, the one big gripe I have about this is the bridge. I'm going to drive over the bridge in this tank. I personally don't think this tank should be able to go over the bridge, because there was no bridge that could hold this tank. So I feel like that's not fair. I don't think the mouse should be able to cross the bridge, but that's a whole complete gameplay change. Now, if you saw there, that IS-4 actually had a direct side shot right there, and that actual front half of my tank was the fuel tank. That should have been a one-hit kill. He didn't penetrate, though. That's surprising to me. I thought I was actually dead in that moment. But the mouse is a very, very nice tank. I gotta say, though, going from, driving the slower tanks of the German tree, the Jagdtigers, the Tiger 1s, to this thing is super slow. You're gonna be lucky if you get 5 miles an hour at any part of a level moving with this thing. You're not going to be the first one into flag points at all. You're going to be lucky if you get there halfway through the battle's over. And I think people need to prepare themselves for that. This thing is dreadfully slow. I mean, ridiculously slow. I actually started matches in this tank that were halfway over. Like, I joined halfway through, and by the time I actually got around to where the tank engagement was going, the round was over. That's how long it took me to get there. I mean, at least 5 minutes to get there. So you have to prepare yourself for actually sitting there and maneuvering this tank where it needs to go. and be prepared for it. And you saw there, I just completely shrugged off a shot from an M46. This thing is an armored monster. Armored monster. The gun is not really anything special. The 75 mil at tier 5, you're not going to really pen much at all. You might get lucky with a 103 in some of the weak spots, but you're not going to pen much at all. And I'm still right there. I'm taking shots in the ass from that IS-4 still, and I'm still alive. I have a little bit of an angle to my tank. I'm leaving it angled. Not necessarily angled for these tanks over here, but I got enough of an angle to where when that IS-4 behind me fires, he's actually... And that was a straight-on shot right there in the side. That should have penned too. But this thing is just an absolute beast. And I'm actually kind of excited about this because Germany never really had any good tier 5 tanks. So yeah, Tiger is a good tank in a sense of that it was good for World War II. But when you're starting to fight T-54s and IS-4s and IS-3s, you're gonna lose. You're losing out big time on this thing. And you can see right there that, you know, that Panzer IV, just critical hit. Ridiculous. I mean, the 128mm gun on this thing is awesome. And just listen to the sound of it. What really surprised me the most about the mouse was the sound. I mean, just hearing the tracks and just listening to the rumble of that engine was awesome. I thought it was really a great feature. And that M26 surviving shots. This tank just feels like something that Germany needed. I know a lot of people complained about how Germany really didn't have shit for tank-wise for tier 5, and was constantly getting shitted on, and that's true. And that's why I feel like the mouse was added. It realistically, the mouse and the Leopard 1 were the next evolution of German tier 5 tanks. And it was bound to happen. I mean, it could get worse. You could have gone into some even weirder, crazier German prototypes, but I felt like the mouse was a level medium for it. You're not getting too far into the prototypes that are just outrageously overpowered, but you're still into a nice little area where you can compete with later post-era World War II tanks based on your armor and your main gun. And you definitely, I mean, I'm definitely sitting here. You can see I'm competing with these tanks. I mean, these tanks are having a hard time taking me down. And realistically, I mean, just smoked that IS-3 right there. Absolutely smoked him. And here we got a T-54. He's in a perfect side shot location. And you'll see, I actually hold my own against the T-54, which is good. And I actually was very surprised about this. Because the T-54, to me, I mean, he actually got me in the fuel tank, but the T-54 to me is the most unfair tank in the game. It's a medium tank. It has 2 respawns, and has one of the most powerful guns in the game. To me, it's definitely a overpowered tank, you would think. I mean, it's a medium tank, it's fast, it's small, it's got a great gun. To me, it's just not a fair tank. And I'm actually very happy that the mouse holds its own. I mean, I'm just shrugging shots off left and right until I was finally able to take it down. And I'm actually happy about that. Like, I feel like this is the IS-4, the neutralizer to the IS-4 problem. Because everybody complains about the IS-4, how it's just so overpowered, and it's just, you know, nothing could kill it, and just one-shots everything. And you see, I mean, you saw in this, I'm holding my own against an IS-4, and I'm holding my own against multiple T-54s. And it's just refreshing. It's nice to see Germany finally having that tier 5 presence that they needed. And a lot of people are gonna be like, this thing's just so OP. It's so OP. It shouldn't exist. It shouldn't be in the game. It's, you know, it's so hard to kill. Realistically, you got to look at it this way. This thing is big. It's slow. It's hard to turn. You know, these T-54s could run circles around me and get right up on my ass if they wanted to. And that's exactly where you kill this thing. Right up on the ass, or you get it to where this T-54 on the left gets me to focus my turret on that side, and the other T-54 circles around and nails me in the back. You got to stop looking at tanks as one-on-one battles and start working as teams, especially with the mouse. If you can get the mouse to turn its turret a certain way, while another tank can actually get a nice side shot or a rear shot on that turret, it's game. I can't turn with these tanks. I can't turn with them. I can't orient with them. The mouse is very limited into what it can do. I'm lucky enough to actually get maybe enough of an orient to where I can actually kind of orient my tank enough to shrug off shots with angling. That's about it. if I want to go through the city streets and do a duke out battle with that, I'm going to lose every single time. The mouse is limited. That's its weakness. That's its Achilles heel. It's limited on how it can move. And I think that's going to be the big downfall of the mouse. You're going to get a lot of these maps where, you know, like Kursk or these small up-to-date maps like Poland or Eastern Europe, where tanks are just going to run circles around this thing. Especially when you start adding in, I think the physics, the ground physics were in this a little bit, to where I could actually would move slower off the ground. I didn't really check to see if it was added in for this dev cycle, but when you start adding into the terrain and the new physics with the terrain, the mouse is gonna have a bad day. It's gonna be a complete new strategy for the mouse. You're gonna have to rethink everything you've done with, you know, any sort of heavy tank, and really focus on picking the correct movements, because you don't have the time to reorient yourself. Like this T-54. I mean, this guy got well within range, and I was able to catch him enough just to be able to angle my stuff. But he's close enough to where now he's a problem, because he could run circles around me. I can't turn with him. I can't turn my turret with him. And, you know, now I'm in a bad spot, because if he were to go to my left, I have to put my ass or turn my turret to show the backside of my turret to these tanks right here. Even though these are some low-level tanks right here because people ran out of tanks, they can still do some damage to me. The mouse is a badass tank, but like anything, it has a weakness, and its weakness is its speed. And that's definitely going to be the way to bring this thing down. You can outmaneuver it, just lead it on a wild goose chase, circle around, and kill it from behind. And if you don't have the support of medium or light tanks with you, you're going to die every single time. And that makes me happy. I'm actually very happy about that, because, you know, there's not really much to complain about. This tank's a beast, but at the same time, you could just smoke it. Now here, when I die, look where it hits. In the same hole. The same hole that had been hit multiple times. I think that actually weakened the armor enough to have that thing pen through. I like that. I like that a lot. But definitely, the mouse is an awesome tank. I'm looking forward to using it more. I'm looking forward to see how Tier 5 balances out with it. And, you know, the dev server didn't realistically give me a feel for it, but hopefully, once this thing gets added in the game, we can try it in sim, realistic, do some more testing with it, and exactly see what this thing's capable of. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys are ready for the mouse, because it's coming soon.